I am going to begin by reading a few poems from Sentient Stones. And it has this beautiful cover on it, and it is a handmade chapbook by, as you said, Raven Press on Salt Spring Island. And you can order copies from Diana Hayes. She still has some left, and I have a few left. The image on the front is a ammonite creature embedded in the sandstone, or granite, sorry. So I'm just going to plunge right in. I have a long abiding interest in picking up stones and having bowls of stones in my house. And I was inspired by my group I'm in, who all were into stones, a kind of poet group. And so here we go. I'm going to start with the first poem, Mon Ami. Sometimes when lying awake, anxious, sleepless, I cup my hands around a polished ammonite picked up at a New Age store that holds a fossilized creature, spiraling fetus, couched once in silty sandstone, who fell to the sea floor millions of years ago. Chambered wayfarer, golden ratio. At first, the rocked being is cold, but warms in the heat of my hands, cupped in prayer position around her form. Soon I drift to sleep, spun deep into dream time, where her silent voice softly sings. In dying we live, in living die. Your time and mine, a single sentient circle. Rocks and stones don't bluff. Meteorites from shattered asteroids are shuttling their way to planet Earth. Limestone deposits embedded in cliffs pulse in quantum silences. When we peer through through Gaia's skirts, stars in faraway solar systems may have already disappeared into fathomless black holes. Planets that once rotated around suns could be incubating, not holed up forever, but dying alive to emerge from the dark tunnel's other side, kicking like newborns warmed in their mother's arms. And the next one is Amethyst Under Microscope. I love amethyst. Quartz queen, empurpled in geode, crystalline structure, reflective, revolutionary, evolutionary, effective without cells, yet vibrating, hibernating, flaunting her crystal lattices, subtle shades of lavender, lilac, violet, calming, charming, disarming, healing, sobering, her vigilant eye, enchanting. Pictographs floating in granite. Pitt Lake, Pinecone Brook, Provincial Park, BC. That's my husband and I, we canoe the west lake side of Pitt Lake, one of the few tidal lakes in the world, unceded territory of the Katzie First Nation. Smoothed out boulders seize our eyes, granite outcrops sheltering mysterious faces, ochre red, faded forms. A stick figure with 2 single circles for eyes, oval body, 3 horizontal ribs, raises one arm displaying 4 fingers. Another lingers with a bird's head, curved beak, 3-toed feet, a stubby tail. Further on, image of a crescent-shaped canoe responding to moon's tug. Her tidal flows. What artist chose this site and why? Archaeologists suggest men and women worked here side by side, preserving myth, ritual, storytelling. Youth likely ventured here on vision quest, drawn by their guardian spirits to places where rock and water stir and cycle. Deep time storytelling remains veiled in unknowing, protected by erosion and the rub of time. Yet silent, these images speak. And there's a little photo of the picture. You can't see it, but the book has lots of shells, and it's really quite well done. And it's only $20 plus cost of postage, 25. So, and I love the size of it and the feel of it. So the last one from this book I'm going to read is called Ammonite Song. And this is where the first poem, I was kind of speaking to about the Ammonite, and using the first person. And this one, the Ammonite herself speaks and sings. Ammonite Song. My spiraling form has no beginning and no end. It always was, is, and shall be. Infinity is a ledge from which you can never fall off. Time is an illusion that cuts to the core of small self. Love is unspeakable, but sometimes returns with bouquets of words. Who can compare wisdom sayings? It's not a competition. So that's it for Sentient Stones. And I'm going to move on rather quickly to Consider. And that's the cover. It is quite a beautiful cover by an artist who did a cover for one of my earlier books, named Tracy Tarling, who lives in West Van. And I'm very happy with the job that Alan Riesmaster did on this book as editor. The first section deals with the figure of Jesus, and you'll find out why. I don't want to go into it. Maybe it'll emerge at the end and there can be questions. So the first poem is from the section called Cosmic Egg. From the roundness to a cave you came, like all the rest, crying, flailing. Such a perilous shoot from infinity to empire's maw. But first to Mary's arms, sheen of animals' eyes, somehow familiar, akin. And it's kind of the evolution of my relationship to Jesus, and trying to redeem his legacy from fundamentalism in a way, and literalism and so on. I've done a lot of research on the Jesus scholars, the historians, the non-canonical gospels, and so on. And I see him as one of many wisdom teachers and healers, and compare him to people like the Buddha or Thich Nhat or Rumi. Good Shepherd, 6 years old, Sunday school, singing Jesus Loves Me, sensing myself the light heft of a white lamb on his back. One of the children gathered in the storyteller's arms. At night, I dream we're flying through suns and moons. He, mother, father, brother, friend, closer than breath. Unbreakable trust, whatever might come. So I had a better childhood experience than many of my friends around the Christian tradition. Wake-up calls, high school civics, 65. An enlightened teacher opens doors to other tales. US colonialism, racism, world poverty, wounded knee, Christianity's alliances with corporate capitalism, university, Marx, Tao Te Ching, Asian studies, Vietnam protest, varieties of religious experience, interspiritual probings, quit church, held on to Jesus thanks to William Blake, rebel Jesus, justice Jesus, flinging the money changers' tables to ground zero. These poems are fairly short. So this one is called Birds of Play. I read in the Quran how the child Jesus shaped birds from clay then breathe them into flight. Next night, I dream myself hosting a gathering at a too small oak table. While adding leaves, I find underneath 2 goldfinches, unquivering, silent, likely dead. Gather them in my hands, carry them to the garden, see them stir by the lilies, breathe with them as they breathe, then fly away. I marvel how the breath that breathes the world still wafts through them, through me. And I'm going on here to some one funnier one. I needed a little humor. If Yeshua had a Bumble profile, and that was a dating site my daughter used for a while. I don't know if it still exists. Original plenty of fish guy seeking long-term relationship. Into mindfulness meditation, aromatherapy, peace activism, loves fishing, mountain climbing, unusual water sports, communal feast with wine and intimate conversation, would rather listen to sparrows than tweet inanities. I wrote this when Trump was in power. And going to move on to the last poem in the sequence. It's part of the Apocrypha. It's called Apocalypse. Story and history never unentwined any more than perception from perceiver, mountains from enshrouded or luminous clouds, embodying the many Christs, Buddhas, avatars, messengers that are us, in us, above, below, within, around, hidden, revealed. Our stories shape us beyond hints into a whole made whole again. So add your jot and tittle to these texts, or text your own. Let love fill in the cracks. So the next section is called Consider, the title of the poem. And these are poems that started out being based on Jesus' sayings like consider the ravens or consider the lilies of the field. But I focused on the earth, on nature. Consider who's there when we are hunched near a bonfire, burning old receipts, ashes to ashes. Suddenly from cedars, whoo, 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 whoo. Night calls to night. Barred owl in cowl endarkens us awake. I don't know if I did a very good imitation out there. My husband says, no, that's not it. Okay, this one is called Consider the Millipede, and it's in the shape, if you can tell, going straight down the page, a shaped poem of a millipede. Consider the millipede, or if not herself, then her 1,000 tiny feet, or if not her prints, then her delicate calligraphy, elongated haiku caught between sand and sky. These fragile signatures, all too briefly here, the artisan embedded deep down. Cherish her lovelorn love letters. Whoever has eyes, let them feel. And this one is a poem that won first place in the Federation of BC Writers 2022 poetry contest. And it's called Consider the Western Red Cedar. And it goes to my love of trees. Consider the Western Red Cedar, aromatherapist, out of whose inner bark Kwantlen crafters wove ceremonial capes, canoes, how Quemelin language drifting in boughs and bowers through her beautiful brain, wrapping round its syllables, chanting. Fungi interfacing nourishment to saplings, stretching north, south, east, west, arched boughs swooping earthward, then rising, sun gatherers. Her elderdom intuits our hands pressed gently against her lichened layers, inviting us to join the round and round antics of gray squirrels. Our 10 against her old growth glades, a mere dewdrop. The secret gift of her attention and ours leaning together in this zero and everything zone. And consider the mother orca. Taliqual, water lover, floating her dead calf by her side in the Salish Sea. 17 days, 1,000 miles, keening her second born, a daughter. Her nearby pod circling in a wake, some taking turns floating the body, whistling echolocations. We have not considered enough our toxins, fishing practices, diminishing salmon, algae, krill, our vessels' noise bombardments, chemicals, plastics, nets. Like Ahab, spearing the great white wonder Moby Dick, we, spearless, yet no less lethal, close off from her keening the sentience of her vowels, not having considered sea loss, earth loss, sidereal loss, ours, a species vanishing. Consider the hydrangea. We have hydrangeas in our backyard and front. Serrata Miranda, water vessel, garden queen, erect on her stem, flaunts her seeded lace cap, rimmed by sepals, violet blue blooms, of blue beyond names. A human bends at the rim of a forested ravine, ledge between cultivated and wild. In breathes Miranda's exquisite shadings, awed by her deft design. Ask the queen's permission to cut a single bloom. Miranda bows, nods, holies the evening meal. They're so beautiful. Thank you. And I'm jumping now to the last section called Cracking the Jesus Koans, where I looked at some of Jesus's parables and enigmatic sayings and saw parallels between them and Zen Buddhist sayings because of the paradox and that you have to work at it, but there's no right answer. It's what comes to you directly that is an awakening. And so the first one is called, it has no title, so I'll just start. Cracking cosmic eggs, making wisecracks can open cracks, crack us up, crumble our egos without coercion, riddle ruminations, create new spaces, not for answers, not to solve Rubik's cubes or crosswords, but to surprise, awaken, double us up in laughter, egg us on to delectable wholeness where we nest in the cracks, singing. The parable of the landowner from the Gospel of Matthew. This is the one that tackles a Jesus saying, the one who pays the early risers same as the latecomers. No way. Flips us to another way of seeing. A distributive economy where clocks melt. Work is measureless play. Imagining otherwise than the exploitation dance. Enter when you're ready for a nanosecond. Present to presence. And that's the idea that the kingdom of heaven is within and you can perceive it within yourself, and everyone can. And I think many religious and spiritual traditions teach this. I was going to end on this. Would that be good? Okay. It's from a non-canonical gospel that was discovered in caves a couple of years before I was born. I think it was I was born in 47. I think it was 45. I'm not sure, but I'll check that later. But these have been published now, and they're part of what is called the Nag Hammadi Library. And I've read a lot of them, the Gospel of Thomas, the And then the Gospel of Mary Magdalene was published earlier than that. It was, but they were considered by the church heretical. And that's why they hid them in caves, because the people who were using them didn't want to be persecuted by the church. So this one, it presents the divine figure as a woman. And I'll just read the epigraph from the Thunder Perfect Mind. I am the first and the last. I am the honored one and the scorned one. I am the whore and the holy one. I am the wife and the virgin. I am the Black Madonna, La Llorona, cupping a white lily. Despised and rejected, I sing. How my beloved and I are distinct, yet one, conjunction of opposites. Something like a seed pearl or singing stone. Something like nothing, where nothing is all that is. All the wounds and arrows and sorrows, milk and honey, water and wine, an empty bowl of light, where the universe expands, contracts into the light of dark, the dark of light. Thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate it so much. Well, thank you.